Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the third round of the ARC Indy Lights Championship. And off of the race of attrition of IndyCar earlier in the week, we returned to Road America for the Indy Lights Championship for the third round, the middle round of the championship. This one's going to be quite interesting. I think this race actually is going to end up taking longer than the IndyCar race did, just off the fact that it's still an 18-lap event on offer today, but laps here run well into the 2-minute range. As we've just started the qualifying session, so nobody's even made it around to, or is even close to making it around, for that matter, to start a lap yet. Logan Poole was the first one out of the pits. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll be the first to start, but as in the background we see somebody struggling to not spin the car out. Couldn't precisely tell who that was, but I want to say it was Luke Alwyn, and around goes Logan Poole on the outlap, and his car haphazardly coasts right back across the track. That was almost disaster, but narrowly avoided that. And that is what I meant when I said it doesn't necessarily mean he was going to be the first to cross. Road America, yeah, not bad, this. We're right on board with Luke Allen, as he'll soon be beginning his first timed lap of the session. And the first timed lap of the session, for that matter. Road America, I kind of expected to handle completely differently to when it was in IndyCar, but all things considered, it's basically just the same thing but slower. Like, basically just, like, you can take the corners with about the same amount of throttle and steering input as you would have with an IndyCar. Turn 1 here, you kind of have to brake deceptively early. That's kind of a conservative run through there, but I guess it's probably better to have put something on the board. Turn, I guess that'd be 3, I believe, because there's a kink that counts. One thing's for sure when it comes to this track. Avoid the curbs. For the love of all that is good in the world, avoid the curbs, because they are absolute destruction. Doesn't matter what corner you're at, or what have you. Avoid curbs. Because I think our onboard is about to be interfered with. As Dylan Bam makes an overtake on the qualifying lap, which just proves the skill gap here that's currently in play. Also a very small field. I think a lot of people were probably a little bit disillusioned after Watkins Glen, and then after the 1-2 punch of that, followed by the Road America race, probably has not inspired a whole lot of people. As Dylan Bam wrestles the vehicle through the carousel, taking it completely flat out, but pretty much on the edge of death, until he's on the loose preset. As I did remember this time that setups are default for Indy Lights. I kind of forgot about that earlier. So it's either loose or stable, although kind of an illusion of choice, because either one you pick, you're going to be loose. It doesn't matter. You might as well be fast. At least that seems to be Dylan's logic, and looking at the pace he set on this lap, I'm inclined to agree. As he crests the hill, he'll be the first to actually complete a lap in this session. A 2:14.8. And that was also with an overtake in the middle of the lap. Matthew Stotts actually goes faster with a 2:14.4. Jerg with a 2:17.9. Allen with a 2:92. What? 2:22.2. Brain. Wow. Apparently I've never seen numbers before. Logan Cool, 2:19.1. In fact, part of my brain was attempting to predict Logan's lap while reading Luke's. Not really sure how that happened. And Rustendorp makes his way up the hill to complete his first lap of the session. Brain, come on. Or not. And I saw in the corner that Ramirez and Jamie Wright invalidated their laps. Jamie Wright just took turn 1. Luis is just ahead of him, losing control in turn 3. Yeah, so another thing with the default setups today is the default differential settings on this car. I drove a few laps just to kill time before the race began. And by a few, I think I mean about 10 or 11 or so. Adam Pelk is mowing some grass as he heads up the hill to, I believe, complete his first lap. That might have been just an outlap that he just kind of started behind the start-finish line. Stopped sideways off of Canada there, I just saw that. The default diff settings in these cars are not excellent. I mentioned, doesn't matter what setup you're using, you're going to be a little slidey. And Dylan Bam gains just about 6/10, but Matthew Stotts responds, also gaining enough time to retake the top spot on the leaderboard. Everybody else just looks pathetic in comparison. Jurek finds 7/10, doesn't go anywhere on the leaderboard. Logan Poole finds half a second, doesn't go anywhere on the leaderboard, and detecting a pattern. I'm unsure of what everyone's true pace is. We might get a glimpse of it in a second here as Van Oostendorp cautiously takes the final turn, summits the huge hill, and he crosses to complete a lap. 19.6, right in between Logan and Luke. And Stotts is absolutely all over the place, heading out of, I believe, to be turn 7. Doesn't quite get the car wheel down for 8. Dylan Bam, meanwhile, continues to wrestle the machine through the carousel, almost clips that outside curb. The outside curbs, the curbs in Road America are also obstacles. They are either auto spin or like auto lose control in every corner. So just don't ever hit them if you can avoid it. It may be very difficult to pass in this race, just due to the nature of those curbs and the nature of just the car's lack of balance heading into any corner on the track. Because the diff settings don't do anything to provide traction. You might as well be using like a 200 and 300 so horsepower go-kart here at Road America, or like one of those shifter carts that I've seen. Well, Dylan just found 9/10, and I don't know if Stotts can answer that. He gains 3.5, but that's nowhere near 9. Jurgensmeyer is picking up a cheeky slipstream off of somebody up there. Might help him a tiny bit. Gains 4/10 and crosses right at the last gasp. Logan Cool ends his session off with nothing, no improvements. Travis Van Oostendorp is out of control. Luke Allen was the car, I believe, giving Jurg the slipstream. Adam Pelk managed 224, and he's on his way around for another one. Jamie Wright is about to cross to set his only qualifying lap of the session after an invalidation basically cost him 5 minutes. And he does do an okay lap, a 19.3. But I think the focus now has to be put on our two front row sitters. They're both on the track and they're both looking... They're still both very capable of stealing pole. If Dylan doesn't improve and Stotts finds some kind of miracle. A 2:13.3 is currently the benchmark. Dylan Bam himself is looking set to jump into the 12s if he keeps the current pace. Stotts, meanwhile, also up 0.3, but he's going to need to find a heck of a lot more than that to counteract what Dylan Bam might be about to do. Cresting the hill, short shifting, which is interesting. And over the finish line for Dylan Bam, a 2:12.7. Can Stotts find an entire second? No, he finds a 10.5. So 8.5 tenths. Luis Ramirez jumped to a 15.4 while I wasn't paying attention. Juergensmeyer improves to a 15.5. I'm also blind, that's a 6 there. So, a last second resurgence from Jurg. Literally started his lap with 1 second to go in the session. Jumps back to P3 on the board. And we basically kind of had almost like Formula 1 there. We had like F1, F1.5, and the back markers. A very defined front running group, which is basically just Stotts versus Dylan. We have the midfield, and then we have the bottom three. As for the starting grid rundown, Dylan Bam alongside Matthew Stotts on the front row. Juergensmeyer, who stole third back at the last second, followed by Luis Ramirez. Travis Van Oostendorp, Logan Kuhl, Jamie Wright, Luke Allen, and Adam Pelk starts in last. Probably a severe lack of familiarity with the car, as unlike the other championships he's made surprise appearances in, I don't think he's ever driven these before. It's not like Rallycross and IndyCar, where IndyCar has been a mainstay of ARC forever. And Adam was one of the ones running that for a while. Rallycross, he's one of the league's better Rallycross drivers at one point. And once he found his rhythm at a track, he was actually competitive. But here, he's, to my knowledge, never driven it. Indy Light, not Formula C. Get it right. Is it me, or does it look like Stotts' grid spot is ahead of Dylan's? Yeah, it totally is. The red lights show up, and Indy Lights is green from Road America, and Matthew Stotts just goes flying off the grid. Perfectly timed to get away. The field bunched together, heading towards T1. Basically 2x2 like we never left the grid spots, honestly. I guess it's a pretty safe way to handle it. Everything looks pretty clean through T1. Down the hill to 2. The track bottlenecks a bit here. Cars ahead of Jamie Wright too wide. Jamie will capitalize, grab a spot possibly over Juergensmeyer. But Juerg's going to have the slipstream. Jamie won't have it because of the lane he's in. And should be able to get back to 6th ever so slowly. Well, they're still too wide actually, so scratch that. But later on the brakes will be Juergensmeyer. Still not never mind. It is now a foregone conclusion, but it is Dylan Bam versus Luis Ramirez. Ramirez will slide into second place with the inside through Corvette Corner, and then proceed to understeer way off of the racetrack at the following turn and lose it to Dylan Bam immediately. Travis Van Oostendorp down the inside of Logan Cool, heading now to the carousel. Travis is pretty much pushing the limit of his grip just to try and inch ahead of Logan, and will do so. Multiple cars have misjudged the kink. Jamie Wright is around, and Adam Pelk is in the escape road and out of here, apparently. Interesting. Alright, well, we've already lost a car from effectively what I would probably just call a mechanical failure, because that seems like a better explanation than whatever actually has happened to Adam Pelk. Man, all these, like, toothpaste machines between Ramirez, Travis, Juergensmeyer, and Luke. This is kind of hard to keep track of at a glance. I mean, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, this is silver and this is white, but, like, I mean, you can see the difference if they're both on the screen, but if I'm just kind of seeing one in the background, I'm probably going to get it confused. Logan Cool has missed turn 1. Nearly cuts back in front of Juergensmeyer. Around goes Travis Van Oostendorp, exiting 1. And he will whip it around. He has plenty of clear area around him, since the only car behind him is Jamie Wright, and he is in the pit lane. Matthew Stotts has made good on his escape plan after getting the superior launch off the starting grid. He's formed nearly a 2-second gap, about a lap and a half into the race. Luke Allen's had a mechanical fault, apparently. I don't really see what you mean. His car seems fine to me. Because I think we saw that pop up in IndyCar, that apparently can represent somebody who's taken terminal damage or severe damage, but his car doesn't really appear to me as being damaged, so I'm not really sure. Oh, Stotts is around. He's done the spin part, and that'll just gift Dylan Bam the lead. Nobody is immune to this car's just distinct lack of traction, basically at any given point. Jurg has formed a 3-car queue. Ramirez has a run off the last turn, and should be able to get ahead of him. Yes, he will. Can Jurg do something as he picks up the slipstream? It certainly looks that way. He's going to look back to the inside of Ramirez, but just be outclassed under braking for turn 1. A thunderstorm has begun to take place at my place of residence. So the forecast was not lying. So don't be surprised if you hear random thunder in the microphone. There's absolutely nothing I can do about that one. I can't, it's not a person or anything. I can't tell thunder to shut up. I can't really tell anybody that, because the person that usually interrupts me is my mother, so. Thunder cares not for my broadcasting. Ramirez is around, and his teammate just has nowhere to go. That is utter destruction. And that is a missing wheel for Ramirez as a result of the contact. I'd be somewhat surprised. Yeah, that is a yellow flag for that one, as Ramirez's car is in tatters. So that'll certainly bail Matthew Stotts out a little bit. Give everybody else a chance to see Dylan Bam again. lest he otherwise drive off into the good night and see us all at round 4 just about, because he will do that if left unchecked. We all know this. Luckily for Luis, Luke managed to take his right front tire off, which means he is able to slowly make his way around the racetrack, and he will be able to continue racing. I say it's Luke's teammate. It's not actually his teammate, it's just reserve. He was originally into 3, or going to be put into 3 by Dylan. Because, quote, Jamie never shows up. And then Jamie proceeded to show up. So, sort of threw a wrench in the works on that one. The pits were open this time. Clearly, Luke Allen was the only one that needed to pit, though, after T-boning Luis. Speaking of, here he comes as well to climb the hill into the pit lane. If he can avoid taking any further damage to his car, that is. Travis also looked like he was pitting in the background, yes. As is Jamie. I suppose if you're in the back, you might as well, right? Like, you're already back here, you might as well make the most out of it. Especially since nobody got full fuel on the the race start. So they'll be able to refuel and go to the end early. Oh, we actually got the pit stop animation. That's rare. That doesn't usually show. And now he gets to wait for about a century and a half because they have to replace an entire wheel on the car. Which is, should really be possible, but oh well. Yeah, cautions here take so long. The track that I sometimes refer to as the North American Spa because it has about the same length, 4.04 miles compared to 4.35, I believe. So not much shorter than Spa. But also, well, it's got more straightaways at least, so the average lap speed is probably about the same, if not slightly higher. But also, you know, slower car. And pit limiter, going around any racetrack at 37 miles an hour is going to take a while. Luis should just about arrive in time. It might be close. It'll probably catch them in the middle of the third sector. Were this an F1 game safety car, we wouldn't be able to go this time because they're about to cross the Sector 3 line. And Luis is still about 15 seconds out. He only has to make the rest of the carousel and the kink to catch, so he would get there in time for our purposes, though. Which is technically all that matters. He'll get there literally as they're about to reach the last turn, humorously enough. He's kind of had to almost put in a racing lap here, just to catch in time. Actually, he really didn't. Dylan could forward any second now, and Luis would not be with the field. Unless he's been instructed specifically to wait until Luis arrives, which he has now done. And he has now... Oh no, it's Travis that has spun. I don't know how he did that. I think Ericsson hit him. The booming thunder signals the restart of the race, and we are green once more. Then when Bam changes lanes, heading down the front straightaway, I think that short shifting is kind of kicking him in the butt right now, as Stotts is getting right up to him. Too wide behind him, or them. 3 wide, as a really bad exit for Jurg, and a really good exit for Luke. He nabs him 3rd place, and it is all kicking off near the back here. Dylan, I would recommend you don't short shift this time, pal. Might not matter anyway. Stotts is going to have a little bit of slipstream, but it's not quite going to be enough unless it's a really aggressive turn 5 maneuver. It is not. Are you ready for your close-up, Luis? Jamie Wright a little wide at 5, but ultimately, you know, not a disaster by any means just yet. It is nose to tail, wing to wing, as we head towards Sector 3, and around goes Travis for the 3rd time. Jamie Wright has to catch it in evasion, and it looked like he did. As much as the trackside camera really didn't give us a good indication of it, he did save the race car. Ramirez all over the back of his Indy car teammate, Logan Cool, who's off all the way of the track at the kink. They both go spinning. Neither one seemed to have turned in there properly. They don't really know how that happened. And so far as I can tell, green flag remains. Stott's having a slightly difficult time dealing with Dylan now that he has the race lead in hand. Slipstream will do a little bit here. As will the fact that Dylan short-shifted up the hill. That might be a torque band thing, though. I know these things are pretty low rev power bands, but I didn't know if it was that low. I didn't really think to believe it, but I didn't seem to lose Dylan any time heading down the front stretch there. So the two Champ Racing teammates, at least in IndyCar, wipe each other out. Dylan Bam, I think, was just loose off exit there, or he was getting rid of a slowdown penalty he received that I just missed. And that's going to give Matthew Stotts the ultimate opportunity. He's forced down the outside, but he's not particularly picky about it. Too wide into turn 5, and Dylan super late to hit the brakes. But Stotts tries to sell the crossover. Doesn't quite work. I could just tell the way he was braking for that. That was purpose built right there. Idea good in concept, but it just doesn't quite pan out every time. Obviously, it either works or it doesn't, and this time Dylan was wiser. it is really a dead heat. I think Dylan has a slightly faster driving right now, but Matthew Stotts is able to remain relevant through the use of slipstream. Bit of a scruffy exit from the last turn, though. I mean, Stotts might need a little more than that to stay relevant. He'll stay within half a second braking for it, but he's going to have to get a mighty run to actually have a chance. And that is not how you do it. That is all of the curbing. And no corner exit momentum for you, Matthew Stotts. That is just about game over, even if you did take turn 3 pretty well. And now he's relying on DIVEBOMB to make a mistake, which, to be fair, it is sort of a roll of the dice with him, especially when I've determined that he pretty much must be on the loose car setup. I can't tell if Stotts is or not himself, but probably. So I guess that doesn't mean much, but DIVEBOMB is known to be his own worst enemy. And Matthew Stotts is just going to have to rely on that happening again. He's already reeled him in a little bit, even as we speak, and Dylan hasn't necessarily made anything that's explicitly a mistake. Stotts is kind of ripping that outside lane on the carousel. I don't really know how he has the turning grip for that, because I certainly couldn't do that during my little testing laps. I had to diamond it just to get the car to exit. But then again, I am also just a commentator. I'm probably missing something, because I usually am. Even when I was racing, I was usually missing something. The field is very spread out. Yeah, big surprise. You take formerly 9, now 8 cars, stretch them across the biggest racetrack we visited on the Indy Lights calendar, and have 2 of them have a crash early on in the restart, and yeah, you kind of get what you pay for. The 2 leaders are within a second of one another, and we've got Travis Van Oostendorp, who has now caught Jamie Wright. Everybody else is basically on their own little island on the separate part of the racetrack. Down the inside goes Van Oostendorp. I don't think neither me nor Jamie were ready for that. That legitimately threw me off. I thought Jamie had spun or something, but it was just that Travis was super aggressive under braking. Travis is now swerving lanes, attempting to break the toe Jamie Wright is getting, but it's not really gotten him super far. It also doesn't really matter, because Jamie didn't really have that much of a run. It wasn't helping him as much as Travis seemed to think it would. Oh, but that will definitely help Jamie Wright. A huge exit from turn 3, and Van Oostendorp is largely defenseless. Still resorts back to changing lanes down the back straightaway. He's lucky Jamie isn't any closer. That could have been disastrous as he does so, but braking for turn 5, all clear for Van Oostendorp. He will still maintain position in spite of the sudden challenge from the 3 car. Oh, but he's not gonna maintain traction. He'll spin again as soon as I've said that, which will just put him right back to the drawing board as Jamie Wright goes right back to 4th place. Ay, ay, ay. But an exercise in futility. Done that twice now. Resist the masculine urge to use the chase cam. I don't know why, that's so difficult for me. As we're riding on board with Matthew Stotts and his efforts to try and at least stay with DIVEBOMB. If he can at least stay in his wing mirrors, or he'll just make a pit stop and try and undercut him. as we have reached halfway here from Road America. Glance at the Discord. I am now seeing the reason why Adam Pelk disappeared, and it was not due to indifference or to car damage, but to severe winds. If you're in a racing game and the winds outside your building are going faster than your car is in some corners, it is probably time to turn off the PlayStation. 80-mile-an-hour winds, yeah. Dylan just kind of putting in the work right now. It's just kind of a question mark. Stotts apparently lost. He went back 40 seconds on his pit stop. He put fuel in the car. He did not. Dylan doesn't pit here. We're just going to leave him even more vulnerable to undercuts if Matthew Stotts maintains appropriate pace. Travis is catching back up to Jamie Wright after his, like, 17th spin of the race. Jamie Wright is just only really where he is because he's avoided trouble ever since the restart. He doesn't really have a whole ton of pace in the car, unlike Travis, who is fast when his car is pointing in the correct direction. You can just see Travis just... I mean, you just saw in the logs with the steering wheel right now. He is wrestling it. Ultra late braking from Van Oostendorp. I didn't even have time to react to get the trackside camera. That's not quite made the pass. They're going to go too wide into Corvette Corner. And that's a sketchy prospect, to say the least. Travis basically sells a slide job. I didn't even know you could even do that in a single-seater. And Travis will finally get to P3. Now, can he stay there? Jamie tried to sneak his way in on the exit of the following turn. Oh, Travis loses control. Jamie runs into the back of Travis. And that will probably help him, as I suspect Jamie might have taken damage. That said, I also suspect Travis might have taken damage, because his car looks even more unsettled than it was before. Cut a bit of the grass. I suppose it just remains to be seen if that car is okay. Even if it isn't, I'm sure Travis is just ready to have to live with the consequence. Jamie, however, is not, and he will pit for the damage that he must have just sustained from colliding with Travis. Stotts will go ahead of him, and Stotts is currently putting in lap times that are slightly faster than Dylan's, but not by much. This race is going about as I expected. I must be perfectly honest. This has not been... Matthew Stotts and Dylan Bam are making it close for a while, but now that they're not on the same part of the racetrack, this is a very spread out affair. Stotts is 6 seconds away from and closing on Travis at the moment. Travis hasn't even pit, but that is the closest any two cars are to one another on this racetrack right now. That is actually a lie. Luis Ramirez is about to catch up to Luke Allen. He's about 2 seconds out. Now 3, because I believe he has spun, but Luke Allen himself is a little ways off the circuit. So I guess that evens out then, maybe. The two, well, temporary teammates in the toothbrush machines. I recommend Sensodyne. I get those commercials on YouTube all the time, that's why it just jumped in my mind. Verbal diarrhea. Also, if my squeaky about to break on me fan is picking up on the mic, I apologize, but the room did not maintain its coldness. It's not really a word, but you get the idea. So I had to have it on for commentary, so I wasn't sweating the whole time. I would think Dylan Bam has to pit again, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure he pit in like lap 3. You know, at which point the mandatory didn't count. If he's even pit at all, I don't actually remember. No, he hasn't. And despite being 41 seconds apart, him and Matthew Stotts are running just about identical lap times. Usually not more than a couple of tenths, or even less than that, usually, like in the last lap, where it was literally a tenth difference. Usually there's not much between their two lap times, so they're running dead even. Jared will pit, which will return Stotts to second place, and he has just, well, he's just crushed his previous best lap, so he ran 4 tenths quicker than Dylan on that lap, but he's 40 seconds away. That doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot at the current moment. That's a corner exit I've ever seen. Travis also pits with his teammate. Good luck this isn't F1, that'd be a problem. Still doesn't take. He is holding out for as long as he can before making that stop. And here I thought I wasn't going to be able to do the interviews because my stomach was starting to be upset, but my lungs are in about the same boat. It's like a lot of coughing. I'm just surprised it doesn't actually hurt right now, but I feel that that's only in due time, really. Apparently Luke Allen was recently passed by Luis Ramirez. I totally missed that, as I was just zoned out and wasn't paying attention to the leaderboard. Travis also did the same thing with Jamie, after making his pit stop, and thus having to overtake Jamie for like 5th time in this race. Jamie with a better run through the carousel, though, combined with slipstream. He might have a shot into Canada if he gets through the kink, right? Which he kind of did, not really. Good, but not good enough. So, no opportunity for the 3 there. And wide on the exit means he won't have much of a chance after. Wide again. Ugh. I could also just be an idiot, and there is no mandatory stop for this race, and I just assume that there was because there are in most other series. That's always a possibility. Can never discount the possibility that I'm just being a moron. Four laps to go here from Road America, and it's a race. If he still has to pit, Dylan must be fairly confident that he doesn't need much time afterwards to try and get back to the lead if he loses it. As I answered that way, he stayed out. He must think he wouldn't lose the lead if he pit. But the gap between him and Stotts has literally not changed since Stotts emerged from the pit lane. Well, I think Travis spun again. He's behind Jamie. And looking for a way by for like the dozenth time. Okay, so this race for the Mr. 42 car has just been the definition of 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. Every time he finally completes the pass, he makes some small mistake that allows Jamie to go right back by. It's almost hard to watch. It's like secondhand embarrassment at this point. It's quite the exit from Canada. Can Travis take it far enough? Yeah, he will cross over Jamie through the flat-out S's, which I didn't even think it would be possible. slides up on exit. Jamie cuts over, trying to preserve his momentum. They will go too wide, just barely. But better torque band with where Travis was in the gear meant that he clears. And Stotts must have made a small mistake, as the gap has widened more than 41 seconds finally. Jamie peeks down the inside. Travis gets very loose on the way into one. I thought we were about to see a repeat of a few laps ago that caused Jamie to have to pit in the first place. Okay, I'm just thinking that Dylan never had to pit, and I'm just a fool for thinking that he did. Because if he doesn't pit on this lap, his time is up. He can't. I don't think he can pit any later than this and it still count. So either I forgot he made a pit stop, or there isn't a mandatory. Which would just bring into question my Stotts pit then. Stotts made another mistake on the same previous lap, so the gap has further extended, and now Dylan could pit even if he didn't have to, and I think he'd still come out with the lead. Speaking of lead, Travis is still trying and slaving to get away ahead of Jamie Wright for who knows how many times now, and he gets ahead. Jimmy Wright does sell the crossover, though. We'll see how that goes as we head towards the final turns of the lap. Travis will slide in ahead. Jamie will use a little bit of the grass. Jimmy with a better run again. In fact, so good of a run, he has to duck to the inside just to avoid running Travis through. But his run stalls out the second we crest the hill. At this point, this guy just be like uncanny deja vu for Van Istendorp, because it seems like he must have done this so many times before. And Dylan has started the penultimate lap. He didn't pit in. So he would literally have to DNF the car to lose this race. And with how little pressure Dylan now has on him with a 53-second lead, I don't really know if that's going to happen. Travis with a very poor exit from turn 8. And once again, Jamie Wright's going to go and try and take the position back. And he will succeed in that endeavor. So, again, Jamie now back to 6th. This is just sad at this point. Very obvious that Travis is not comfortable with that car. Too wide heading towards Canada, though. And Travis clears before we even hit the brakes. Massively helpful for him to stay ahead as he and Jamie head up to 2 to go. I was about to say when we hit 2 to go. No, Dylan's about to hit 1 to go. I think I looked away and Jamie sent the dive bomb. He did, it didn't work. Now it's Travis cutting back and forth, placing more blocks than the average Minecraft player. Like, oh my lord. Trying to break the, albeit relatively weak slipstream as it is. I'm not even sure why he's even bothering. It really isn't doing that much. Oh, but he nearly loses out of the first turn. And guess what? Jamie's back into the lead. Dylan, is that even allowed? I guess it isn't the final lap, huh? You could have done this like 7 laps ago and made it so much more interesting, you know that? I hate you. Jurgensmeyer is putting some threat on Luke Allen. Travis with super late braking into turn 5. I'm amazed he managed to even get anywhere near that inside line. He looked like he was coming in with way too much steam, but he managed to get it stopped, and once again, retake P6. But Jamie isn't done yet, obviously. He hasn't been at all, and another bad exit from 7. Travis isn't having it, though. He will break the cycle of death and rebirth. This death and resurrection show, but the only thing dying is Travis's mentality at this moment. Jamie around the outside sticks it through the carousel. Alright, yeah, and Travis's mentality just took another crippling shot. And he is way wide in the kink. Even with the pit stop, Dylan emerges 30 seconds clear. I don't know why Stotts' pit stop took so much longer then. Unless he had damage that I was not privy to, I'm guessing. All I can think on that one. But yeah, full disclosure, I will be skipping the podium interviews this evening. I need to find a toilet at my earliest convenience. Also coughing a lot. I'd like to give my throat a rest. There's also just not been much to interview on. Like, this has just not been a race worth interviewing about. The second that Stotts hit the pit lane, it was literally all over. Heading through the final set of turns is Dylan Bam, and as I just said, as soon as Stotts hit the pit lane, it hardly ever looked in a shred of doubt for him. Cresting the hill, Dylan Bam will sweep the Road America Week, winning the Indy Lights race. Some 37 seconds behind, Matthew Stotts should be able to at least bring it home in P2. He had that advantage in about the first 2 or 3 laps, but that was all. And then to round out our podium, Luis Ramirez does a little bit of a slide, but it doesn't ultimately matter. He is still going to summit that hill and claim his podium. His second on the Indy Lights season, I do believe. His teammate Luke Allen 4th. Jurgensmeyer P5. Jamie Wright will win the war with Travis Van Oostendorp. Actually, I think Travis Van Oostendorp lost the war with Travis Van Oostendorp more than anything. Jamie 6th. Travis will place 7th in a race that I'm sure he would probably just rather he never just forget about. And Logan Cool is missing a rear wing. Now he's driving a Formula Ford. At least he's also missing a front wing, so it's not a downforce imbalance. I don't know what happened that dealt so much damage to his vehicle, but nevertheless, he will climb the hill to round out today's events. While he does so, quickly plug ARC's many sponsors, starting with DIVEBOMB. I almost said the wrong name. DIVEBOMB, which helps with most of promotional material for ARC itself. I should really get clarification on what it actually does. I just know I follow their F1 meme page. I think they write articles. To SimLeaguePro.com, SLP, as it's more commonly referred to, which helps ARC's administrators and administrators of other leagues organize and recruit and schedule league racing. To the Burn and Rubber podcast run by a bunch of people that weren't in this race, that interview basically North American oval racers, dirt and asphalt alike. I'm going to back out of this. To James McAdam, who allows ARC to use his photography and in-game screenshots for promotional materials. It's part of the partnership he has with the league and AJ Knickel Design. Even though AJ himself isn't here either, he's currently in New Hampshire getting ready for the NASCAR races, apparently this weekend. So that is why he was absent from the race. I said in the Discord, Louise, that I'm not doing the podium interviews because my stomach is upset. I'd like to get out of here. But, yeah, I'll wrap things up. Does anybody look in this Discord server? I swear. Very awkward. Yeah, so, assuming nobody else suddenly enters the area, party or house or otherwise, that will do it. There is no AF1 race this week, I do believe. So, next time you'll be hearing from the broadcast channel will be... I believe it might be next week's AF1 race, because IndyCar is off Monday, so it will be a bit before we have our next broadcast, at least a week. But whenever it may be, until then, goodbye.